besides being a big fan of you, I want to talk about your ESPN career, but more so your sports career. Because
Whatever.
I thought there was two people in modern day, what I consider modern day sports broadcasters that just happen to be women, but were really good at their job. That was you and Doris Burke. I think Doris Burke.
Doris.
She's one of the. I think she's the best play-by-play since Hubie Brooks in terms of like she teaches. Yeah, Hubie Brown. Sorry.
Yeah.
While she teaches, while she's telling you, I love it.
How she does it.
Yeah, she's coaching.
Breaks it down. Yes.
Like she's breaking it down.
Yes. And she's also like potty mouth. Cause it's like a sailor.
Oh, absolutely. Gangsters recognize gangster. I'm a fellow cusser.
Wine flowing, watch out.
Which is hard to do on live TV.
Yeah, we try to wait.
Wait, are you trying to say that you two are a potty mouth? Is that what you're trying to say? You cuss
together?
A lot?
It's bad. We went to, during the Warriors, I guess it was the Warriors' last finals that I covered, 2019, Warriors Raptors. And we left Toronto early. I mean, on time.
So did the Warriors.
So did the Warriors.
Go ahead. Wow. Sorry.
I know. That sucked. Sorry. No offense. And then we landed and went straight to a vineyard in Napa.
You went to a vineyard?
Yeah. It was the best.
Is that like a bar? Is that like where sophisticated people go?
Yeah, where fancy people go.
So, like, do you get a glass of wine or they hand you one of those weird?
No, you taste Tyrus.
You got to go like this?
Yes, and then
And that's gangster? And at what point while you're doing this, this fucking wine is dope, yo?
They just let us in because they watch the Warriors.
They watch the Warriors.
Otherwise, we were bringing the class level down.
So you were like sleeves rolled up,
yeah,
spit on the floor while you're drinking.
Yeah, and Doris is talking hoops with her glass of wine, and bleepity bleep. I'm like, I love this woman.
Did any fights break out? Or I guess no, there wouldn't be a lot of fights in the vineyard, right?
Sadly, no fights. I've never been in a fight.
What?
I mean,
no, you're.
Do I look like that type?
No.
Listen, I can be.
Yeah, but like you're mean to.
I'm mean to people who deserve it.
You're mean to men, so it's like.
Excuse me?
We don't fight.
I'm not mean to men.
Okay.
Here we go. This is a good start.
This is how the fights break out in the vineyards. So I did a little bit of research.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Homework?
It goes against my. So I thought when I heard the name Steele, I was curious. Was there any relation to a Hall of Fame running back, football player for West Point?
Maybe. Yes. Daddy-O. He's kind of amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So your dad,
the big old tight end. That's
big tight first. Back when it was something to be first.
First black to ever play varsity football at West Point, 1966. You should see the picture. If you did your research, you probably saw it.
Yeah.
The picture of an entire white football team, and then there's Dad in the middle. He's easy to spot.
Yeah, it's like me on a Gutfeld Show picture. So what was that like growing up like that? Because you had to be, well, you weren't there yet, obviously, when he was at West Point, but growing up knowing that type of level of success, was that a lot of pressure for you?
No, he never talked about it. I didn't even know.
Oh, he was a really good dad.
I didn't know. I didn't even know what he had done or the history behind it. And then I did a little here or there. I saw some pictures, but this is pre-internet, right? It's not
right, yeah.
You can Google
Encyclopedia Brown.
Yes, yeah. And he was on an encyclopedia as far as yeah. Okay, I was in college. I went to Indiana, and I know.
Stop. 20
Here
seconds.
we go.
You weren't in college until you were like, hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Like, didn't you ever bring him to school for like show and tell or anything like that?
He had this thing called the job.
Yes. What was his civilian job?
Well, no, he was a military officer for 23 years.
So he was always okay.
So from West Point on was 23 years and through the ranks, and he retired a full colonel. I mean, I lived in 4 different countries by the time I was 11 because of.
I heard a rumor you were born in the Panama Canal.
But that sounds weird, like in the canal.
Yeah, that's when I first saw that. I was like, wait a minute.
Canal, but I wasn't born. Well, see, I could be a comedian.
Yeah, you could, because no one else here came out of a canal. He hatched from an egg, and I just ripped out of my mom like an alien. So
you ruined her.
Literally, yeah.
Yes, because you told me on my show you're 10
pounds, 24. I was 10 pounds. I think it was 16 ounces or something like that, and 24 inches. So yeah.
Yeah, no. And I've had 3 babies, but if I think they combined the combination of them together was like how much you were as one. So your mother, God love her, because no, I couldn't. Anyway.
Or maybe he was mad at her because that. Like if God was mad at me, he'd give me a giant baby to push out, opposed to like a small, easier one. But again, who knows?
So God was not mad at me, I guess.
Or you just had a good,
You know what I did? I had good genes. Like
Yes.
I'm tall and it's easier. It's easier to carry a baby and to deliver a baby if you're tall and
yeah,
long.
like I said, I'm not transitioning anytime soon, and so I'm not really.
I hope not. Listen,
No.
no offense, but I would lose respect because I know that would have meant that you've been like fake this whole time.
Yeah, no, that would be impossible. But
Okay, wait. So what was your question? College? Yes.
so you're in college, and you're just now finding out about your dad's.
The levels. I knew
levels?
a little, but I mean, the funny thing is, I said I wanted to be a sportscaster when I was 11 years old.
And he never brought it up.
No, because, and then later we asked him, and there's this really cool story on my family that NFL Films did like 6 or 7 years ago. It's pinned on my Twitter account forever because it's the biggest gift I've ever received, media-wise or anything, because for someone to document the story of your family.
Right.
So it'll be there long after I'm gone, for my great-great-grandkids. I learned a lot watching that NFL film story about my parents that I did not know. Obviously, I knew about what he had done sports-wise before then, but he said something in that piece, and he said, what does that have to do with me being a dad?
And that is the most
else.
deepest thing, because when it comes down to it, your kids really don't care. Like,
right? And
all the accolades. My kids don't give, all they care about is if I'm there or not.
Correct. That's all that matters. And
Yeah.
so but when I really started to learn about it, I was at IU, and I was able to talk on the phone with Lee Corso, who used to be the football coach at Indiana, and like 40 years ago.
Right.
He was IU, and he coached at Navy. He coached against my dad when he was at Navy, I think. And so I got to talk to Lee Corso. I got to talk to Bob Knight. And, of course, he was the basketball coach there and was the coach at Army at West Point when my dad played football there. My dad was classmates with Coach K, the Duke basketball coach. So all these ties. And they said, let me tell you about your dad. And when these legends, later working at ESPN, Bill Parcells worked with us at ESPN, and Bill Parcells was an assistant coach at Army when my dad was there. So I learned about my dad's greatness on the football field from these legends that I had looked up to as a sportscaster. And when they're the ones that told me, I was like, Dad.
Like, how would that feel knowing that your dad was a peer?
With
Like
all
Parcells.
these people.
They'll remember him because they had to scheme
Yes.
against him. They had to deal with him. You don't remember. You remember the guys. I remember the first names of all the guys that I battled with, and then there's guys that I played with that we could have been next to me every day, and I'll be like, you're referring. So
Which is
you
kinda
know that's
cool.
something when they
say that. But then when I started, I was like, Dad, I was 11 when I told you I wanted to do sports. We would sit on the couch and watch football and basketball and do trivia. I mean, and this is in the 80s, so like there were no women doing this.
None.
And then even into my high school and college years, there were so few women, especially on a national level. So he was on me and quizzing me and pushing me, and I was really super shy, like weirdly shy. And so he was like, and my mom, they're like, so if you want to do this TV thing, you're going to have to like talk.
Right, yeah,
And
kind
so
of a big
this
thing.
whole thing. But it was just cool to look back and all those moments with him on the couch and going to sporting events and him coming to my track meets and everything else. It never was about him. And then later, when my senior year, my fifth year in college, I saw Bob Knight at Assembly Hall, and you didn't really see him on campus. He's busy and he's bigger than life, larger than life, so he didn't like hang out at the library.
He didn't strike me as someone who hung around and told cool stories to the kids at lunch.
He was so warm in many other ways that none of the media ever wanted to talk about. I saw him and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my chance to ask if he remembers my dad.
Right.
So I was like, I said a little prayer. I was very nervous, and I walked up to him, and it was him and his assistant coaches coming down the hall, getting ready to go to lunch. It was like January, so it was winter and freezing. And I just waved. I was like, hi, Coach, can I ask you a question? And he looked at me, and I was like, uh-oh, And he's like, come here, young lady. And I was like, okay. And I walked over, and he put his arm around me, and he's like, what can I help you with? And I said, well, I just wanted to know if you remembered my dad. He's like, well, who's your dad? I said, well, he was at West Point when you were a coach there. And I said he played football. He's like, well, what was his name? I said, well, his name is Gary Steele. I couldn't even finish saying his last name. And Bob Knight stopped in his tracks and looked at me, and he goes, Gary Steele, 6'6.5", 220 pounds, from Levittown, Pennsylvania, manliest prep school, the best goddamn athlete Army's ever had. What about him? This was in 1995. My dad graduated in 1970.
That's what I'm saying.
And he wasn't a basketball player. He was a football player. So for Bob Knight, 35 years later at that time, to remember not just his name, his height, his weight, his high school, his prep school, I was like, oh my goodness. And then he's like, let me tell you, and he just started talking about my father, and I'm like trying not to get emotional because this is one of my heroes as a basketball fan. And then my real hero is my dad. And it was just all in that moment.
You got it all in
and
one.
I was trying to like soak it up.
Yeah.
And so he's like, let me know if there's anything I could ever do for you. And I'm thinking, I wonder if he'll say that when I'm at ESPN someday and asking questions. And
so
of course,
did you always know?
Wait. This is the end of the story. You're going to love this. So I'm walking away and I was like, thanks, coach. And I'm running and there's a payphone over here. And I went to call my dad on the payphone.
A payphone, kids, is a phone that you actually have to put, it's not Bitcoin, but a coin into it, and you punch some numbers, you can call somebody from anywhere in the city. All right, continue.
But if you don't have a quarter, you can call collect. And I didn't have
you have a collect call from your daughter? Yeah.
Yes. No, I'm not in prison. But my dad accepted the call. But I started to pick up the phone to call him, and Knight says, hey. And I looked over, and he goes, ask your dad, what the hell kind of name is Sage? And I was like, okay, I think I'm supposed to laugh, but are you serious? I'm like, haha. And he gave me a wink. And he walked out the door. So, like, he showed me this beautiful, warm moment.
But he still reminded you he's still Bobby.
I'm still Bobby. Night. And when I called my dad, he didn't make a big deal of it. He was like, he did? He remembered, you know? And so the story is about, yes, this wonderful, incredible coach that people don't want to talk about in a positive light. And I have more stories like that. Most importantly, about my dad, who was the most humble, still is, humble man. Who, you know, last night I was in the car till about 2 a.m. getting here. I moved. I'm in the process of a move, you know about. Going from outside of Hartford, Connecticut. I'm an empty nester.
To Florida.
I'm going to Florida. I'm an empty nester. My youngest kids, I have all three in college now. I still need a job, yes, because of that. And I'm driving and I was tired. I pull over to a gas station. I'm sleeping at midnight.
Sage Steele sleeping in the gas station.
Literally head back. And my mom and dad keep calling. I am almost 52 years old. Point being, no matter what, their mom and dad. My dad was worried, and they wouldn't go to sleep, and he's 78 years old, and he had just had hip replacement surgery, and he's, you know, but I'm still his little girl.
That never changes.
I know, and so he's my hero for many reasons that have nothing to do, you know, with football and sports, but he's also the reason why I knew I wanted to be a sportscaster when I grew up.
So something you said, you were talking about, like, you knew since you were a little kid what you were going to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be on ESPN. And how many people do you think, or do you remember they were like, shouldn't you be a model? Or
there were no model comments, that's for sure. There were nurse. My parents even said, you know, I like this, but just in case, have you considered nursing school? Like, they weren't trying to be mean, or they weren't trying to.
They were just trying to say that, because to be fair, because my mom said something very similar to me, because whenever, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to be a professional wrestler, I'm going to be an actor, a firefighter, and I'm going to make movies. My mother was like, what about construction? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, now what are you really going to do?
Yeah, what are you really going to do? But she said it like, yep, you are. You're going to be the biggest one ever. Yay. So back to math, because, you know, if it doesn't work out, you're going to be able to you don't need to be able to add. So I don't think that's a bad parent thing. At least they weren't saying like, well, you're a little girl, right? And little girls don't go on TV. So
they didn't say that, but they were very aware, obviously, that it's obvious there were no women really doing this. You had a couple at a national level, but I'm like, they're talking local TV. There were no women in local sports, even in the early 90s. And so where I lived, which is kind of all over the country, but that's why my dad's like, okay, you want to do this? Like, let's watch some football together. So I would memorize like in Colorado. That's where I lived in Colorado Springs, Fort Carson, we were stationed. And this is 84 to 89. So John Elway was drafted in 83. Of course, the great quarterback class of 1983. And I was in love with him.
I had all their cards.
Marry him,
supposed to retire with those cards.
What's that?
I had all their rookie cards. I'm supposed to be able to retire with those cards.
Yes. What happened?
Reality happened. Apparently, every kid in America had those same damn cards.
When we thought we were special.
Yeah,
exactly.
Clear. The price guides. This card's worth $10,000, and then you go to a show and they're like $4.
Yeah,
because they're overprinted.
I've been holding on to these
Beanie Babies happened.
Plastic sleeves for Beanie Babies and Cabbage Patch Kids. Yeah,
got caught up in all that. So
anyway,
I digress.
So he, so I had to memorize all the players on the Denver Broncos roster, and not just their name, their position, their number, their college, and so I can still, look at, I mean, you look back at that era, and it was like the three amigos were John Elway's receivers. It was Vance Johnson, Mark Jackson, and Ricky Nattiel, you know, and Sammy Winder was the running back, and Carl Mecklenburg was their linebacker, number 77. Like,
you were a student of the game.
I loved it, but you know what it was? Like, in hindsight, when I announced in 1984 that I wanted to be a sportscaster watching the LA Olympics, like, I knew I was never going to be a great athlete myself, and through high school, it's all I got. But I could feel, especially as an Army kid, especially living around the world, how sports brought people together. And on a football Sunday, for 3 hours, it doesn't matter your race, your religion, your socioeconomic status, your politics. Everyone loved each other. And you're high-fiving or you're booing the same players.
You all hate the same referee.
Yes. And I felt that. And I think it was also as a biracial kid where, okay, I'm accepted here sometimes, I'm accepted on this side sometimes, but in sports, it didn't matter. Can you help us win? And I loved that. And I loved that everybody was equal there. So I wanted to be around greatness in that way, be around nice, happy people. I mean, because sports is also an escape from reality for so many people, which is why I would get upset at ESPN. Like, why are we bringing other things in? Let people come to watch sports, go over
But that's what makes the sportscaster special. That's what Stuart Scott was special.
Yeah.
That's why Berman was special. You're special. Doris was special. The list goes on. And even from that era, you turned it on to hear the whiff from Dan Patrick or cool on the other side of the pillow. Not, I didn't know anything about your personal life, Berman's personal life, none of that stuff, because they were there just to break down and try to make me understand why my Patriots couldn't win in the fourth quarter, or whatever the case was be. And then it changed, and I felt like the newsmen and women, and I include you in that group, became the negative, because you guys weren't on your Twitters and you're posting all kinds of personal stuff and how you feel about this and that, whatever. And the scope of things changed in sports, and it didn't go from. Plus, just trying to find SportsCenter, it was like I was making jokes that ESPN was like trying to find sports at ESPN is like trying to find music on MTV. It slowly changed to where all we had was all these opinionists, guys who never played the game talking bad about guys who play the game, which to me is an oxymoron.
And now women,
do it too. Also, women who also do it just because.
At least you played football in high school.
Yeah, they didn't even play it, and they weren't watching. Yeah. And you can see it, you can tell it, because whenever there's a debate, especially the NBA, for some reason, they put DEI hires in there, and they put people who don't even love the game, really. Yeah. They like being around they get like the attention from the game. But when you're talking to them about, they're not going to break down a defense, they're not going to do this, but they'll sure talk about a coach's dating habits for 45 minutes and act like it was illegal. He was just a bad boyfriend. That doesn't have anything to do with him coaching, but that's what we had to talk about for an hour. There's an opportunity there, and a lot of people make that choice. Like Stephen A. Smith, I could not go through my day without watching Stephen A. And then he just became more about Stephen A. and less about sports, so I don't watch him as much anymore because now I can get the rant once a month. Whereas before I was waiting for it, but the stuff turned from talking about basketball to personal attacks. And I started thinking, I
understand it, and it's hard because, like, I know Stephen A. I've known him for many years. Haven't talked to him in a very long time, long before I left, actually. He's got a great heart. He's a great father. Like, he's a normal person who's sensitive and very thoughtful. So, I think it's like many people, though, where there's.
I'd like to see him run for office. I think when I say that, because he has so many solutions for everything. You should put that to practice. Because I feel like that's what he wants. I feel like it's starting to look.
Just dominate the entire entertainment industry.
Yeah, sports, all phases of it.
Game show, yeah. And again, I'll say this. I'll say it. I have said it forever. Even if we haven't always seen eye to eye, no one works harder. He is such a hard worker. He does his homework, and he literally does every show, and then he does stuff on the side. He also was fired, or his contract not renewed from ESPN when I was there, like I want to say like 2010 or something, and he wasn't bringing it, and he acknowledges that, and they let him go. And then he came here, and he went back on the radio here in New York and worked his way back, and they brought him back. So he was humbled, and I think that changed him.
No, your situation is completely different.
Yes,
'Cause
very.
You were bringing it every night.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And then you decided to say, enough. I'm in the adult room. And they're like, oh, we don't do adults here.
I hadn't heard it put like that, but yeah. It was actually more gradual than I realized even when I was in it. I felt the tides turn in 2016 when Trump was elected. And I remember at the time I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I was doing just an NBA show or NBA Countdown in Los Angeles. Didn't want to live in LA with 3 kids, so lived in Scott and just went like Thursday to Sunday. You do your ESPN, ABC stuff for 9 months a year, finals, all that stuff. You go hard. I loved that job, even though I was probably with the worst teammates ever, behind the scenes and in front of the camera, next to me on the set, et cetera. But I remember being in Arizona watching the election and first of all being shocked because of what the pollsters had said leading up to
Oh, yeah, they said it was over. It was no shot. Yeah.
And then the results pouring in and I'm like, is this really happening? And most importantly, watching our leadership and executives at ESPN tweeting political things that were, of course, very anti-Trump and just nasty. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Why are our
That's the last place it should be is in a sports network.
Of course, but especially from your leadership, from executives who tell us not to do that. And then you're out there freaking out and saying things that are, frankly, divisive.
Yeah.
Period.
You call somebody Hitler, no matter who you are, it's divisive. I mean, no one,
and
there's only one.
Opinion. Think that. But don't go on social media as an executive and say that. Or frankly, as on-air talent at ESPN, which happened all the time and still does. And so that's where I noticed the difference. And I spoke up, but not I thought it was something just innocuous.
You don't strike me as a very confrontational person.
If anything, let me tell you, I lived in fear most of my life. Absolute fear of disappointing anybody, of being not liked. I was such a pleaser. I'm like, that's
such
the
a weight.
worst disease ever. And
that's a huge weight because you're never going to fill that
and
bag.
So on TV, and especially once the internet picked up and social media, I mean, it was very clear that I was disliked. Sometimes just because they didn't like my outfit.
You just, that's going to happen. The haters are going to hate.
But my point is that was even hard initially. And then you get over that and you realize, okay, this is how God made me. That's what I didn't get a job at one point. An executive told my agent because of my hair. So this is 20 years ago. It was a big job too. And I was like, oh, fine, I'll straighten it. I was going to do anything to. Right.
Because you're trying to get that job. I've been there. Trust me.
And within, there's some boundaries there, of course, not anything. But so when you then are just giving your opinion, base level, not about a president.
Yeah, you didn't break out a PowerPoint.
No.
You just said.
But I was never hateful because that's not who I am. That's not who I've ever been. That's not how I teach my kids to be. But you can have an opinion here or there. I retweeted something that ESPN had posted, and I just gave an opinion on it. And it was like, whoa. And I woke up the next morning and I was shaking. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was scared. Did I do something wrong? And I kept seeing others, though, who were doing so much more, and I didn't understand. And it ends up, it's very clear. If you have an opinion that's more conservative, and if you have more woke, liberal talking points or opinions, if I had said stuff about the COVID mandate, the vaccine mandate that I had said, if I said the opposite, I just said I don't think we should ever be forced, period. Right. That's all I said. If I had said the opposite, all you anti-vaxxers, screw you, you don't.
Oh, yeah, you get your own special.
Celebrated. I would have probably gotten a raise. So my point, you mentioned earlier, I chose to speak up. It kind of happened accidentally.
It wasn't your plan. You just common sense.
But then when you're punished for it repeatedly, that's when you say, I'm out. I'm done. Not even I'm out. I'm done. And I'm going to stand up for myself. And frankly, others who quietly came to me and said, thank you.
That's something that I used to get a lot. I think the quiet people piss me off more than the haters.
Yes, I'm with you now. It makes me mad.
When somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, Tyrus, man, I really love what you said last week. Hey, you want to come on the show? No. No, hell no. But you keep doing you. And it's what? Speak out, man.
Where have you been?
Yeah.
Thanks for leaving me hanging.
Because that's why I was teasing a lot of people because I voted for Barack twice. Looks like I'm going to vote for Trump 3 times, right? And I remember all the time when Brock was elected, there were some people who were like, well, there goes the neighborhood. And, and I remember looking at that kind of like, But then they got over it and they moved on. The Trump thing was like, they kept screaming. It was like Austin Powers with that little slow tractor coming towards, and the guys in front going, and at any time he could step out.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And they keep screaming. But I'm like, where's the that you, because I'd like to know.
Where's the evil?
It's just, I'm just saying, I don't know him from Adam. Okay, I don't walk around with a MAGA shirt on. I said if he was reelected and his policies messed up my tax line, I would not be voting for him the next year.
Correct.
I'd be like, what else we got?
Yeah, it's very
That's
simple.
how most Americans are. Yeah. So this thing, not only we don't look at the long-term effects, we really saw how ugly a particular part of this country is when they don't get their way or what they perceive is their way. And you would think it would not trickle down into like a sports network, but it did.
That's the sad part.
Because I mean, you're not even being negative, but when you think about that first time you were told, like, hey, you're going to be doing SportsCenter tonight, let's talk about something positive. And what was that like getting that call? Was it a call? Was it an email? Like, how did it happen? Like, where were you? Do you remember where you were?
I'd only been there. Oh, absolutely. But I'd only been there a couple of weeks. And usually back in the day, and this was in 2007 when I started there.
I don't think you're allowed to say back in the day for 2007. Is that,
it's
we all agree?
True now.
It has to be at least 81 to say back in the day.
No one else in this room was alive then. But that's
Harry,
fine.
can I get a 80? 85. Okay.
85.
Yeah.
Okay. A few years back in 2007.
Thank you. See, she's adaptive. Coachable.
I'm very coachable. But now I'll just give you my opinion. I'll be like, well, you suck as a coach, but that's fine. Anyway, not you. Not you.
Well, there's no one else here, coach. Get it together, Gary.
2007, and back in 2007, they had you wait like a month before going on the air. And
right.
and they had ESPN News, if you recall. So they did like SportsCenter or highlight
ESPN
shows.
University, too.
ESPN U, yeah, which was more college campus focused, but ESPN News was 24/7, and because there also wasn't SportsCenter all day long either, like there kind of is now. So I was in training, and then I was watching them get set for the 6 p.m. SportsCenter, and that was Brian Kenny and Jay Harris, and Jay was sick and couldn't do the show.
This is like Anchorman.
And I didn't have any clothes with me because I wasn't, And so it was in the morning and they're like, listen, can you do it? And I'm like, of course, that was the dream.
Thrown into a
from
fire.
Day one. But I remember, I was like, well, I don't have any clothes. They're like, well, go home, get some clothes, come back. And so I remember like sprinting home, speeding home, calling my mom and dad, like, oh my God, it's going to happen. And the tough thing is, the best thing about ESPN, and I think what I did for some years, what we all do there, you write your own stuff. No one's writing stuff for you. Like highlights and stuff, obviously there's an editor and they give you a shot sheet with notes. And
right, yeah. But you add the
graphics, they'll put the facts in there.
accoutrement, the good stuff.
100%. We write all of it. So I was like, I got to get those clothes and rush back and da-da-da-da. And it was an hour show. So with 2 anchors, it's a lot of, Mm-hmm. And I remember the ugly ass skirt I wore. I remember... thank God I had a good makeup artist. But I remember freezing, basically, and like counting down as they were giving, 10, 9, and stand by, and the lights were on, and I'm on the floor, because you stand at the beginning on the floor for SportsCenter, and I just thought, like, I went back to being that little girl in Colorado Springs, sitting on the couch with my dad watching the Broncos games, memorizing the numbers. And I thought, I did it. It was amazing. I was 34, I think. And, now, they gave me like 2 stories. I gave everything to Brian, but I did it. And then, so I skipped over, though, all the rest of the training. And then my first full show was an absolute debacle. And so I remember thinking, well, that was a good run, 1.5 shows. But they got me on a 3-year contract, so let's see what they do. And I got kind of thrown around. I didn't get to continue doing SportsCenter initially because I sucked. Even though it's kind of not my fault, I didn't have the training. It was So I had to work like 2 good years to get myself out of that hole mentally and get my confidence back from that one bad show. And I had to get mad at myself and at, I don't know, whomever.
That damn designer of that skirt, I'm sure.
Not the skirt. The producer, the bosses who this is what I've always said since then.
Right.
Because no matter what, it's a hard place to walk into. It is as competitive as ever. And it was very different for women in 2007.
Yep.
Now it's everywhere, good. We needed to get there for the right reasons, hopefully,
Yeah.
But what my bosses did not do is they didn't set me up to succeed. And I didn't even know that. I was just blaming myself. But that day after I got off of that debacle show, my first full show, one of my bosses pulled me into his office. And he looked at me and he said, "We failed you and I am so sorry." That meant the world. That's leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Because they realized what they did wrong. It was the first day of the NCAA tournament. So
it's crazy.
6 p.m. SportsCenter. So you go from 1 hour rundown to 2 hours and 45 minutes. And you've got 812 basketball games on the first Thursday of the NCAA tournament, all over, highlights thrown, the rundown out the window. And I'm like, I don't even know where the bathroom is. I don't even know how to log on this computer.
Oh, wow.
So it was not great. Digger Phelps, Dick Vitale. I mean, people were pissed and like yelling in the studio. And I was like, ah. But you survive. And I got off the air and I was with Jay Harris. And I just looked at him and we didn't know each other. And he just hugged me. And I'm like crying. I was like, I'm out. I'm sure they're going to fire me. So the boss brought me in and told me that. And he didn't have to do that. And I've thanked him several times. That was 17 and a half years ago. And that saved me. Now, I got cast aside and didn't get to do SportsCenter as promised for a couple more years. But I wouldn't change it. It did make me tougher. And I think it ended up making me better because I found this fire in me that I didn't know existed. Some anger.
Also, you went through a perceived failure.
For sure.
And you survived in front of everyone.
Fail in a conference room or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You fail on that TV show live.
I'm probably dying because I'm thinking about it. All of my greatest failures have been in front of a camera. Yeah. That's, and then everyone is nice enough to remind you on social media.
I'm glad there was no social media then.
Yeah. Well, I think it would probably been better because by this time now we would block out all the noise. You would realize that I think a lot of times, especially people who are sensitive.
Yeah, but I didn't have the mental toughness at that point to handle it. I also came in, the dream job, which I turned down the first time. I'll tell you the story later, someday maybe. I had an 11-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
That's right. Like, we're all talking like you had babies at home.
I'm trying to be a mom to these 3 babies. We just moved to the middle of freaking frozen tundra, Connecticut. No one smiles. No one's friendly. Gray skies for 7 months. You go into this work environment that is not welcoming at all. It was made very clear from peers from the get-go. And my husband, I'm not married anymore, but my husband was a stay-at-home dad. And so and he didn't want to come to Connecticut. So I'm trying to make sure everybody's okay. Babies, school, making lunches, breakfast, all the things, and the husband, and try to go to work every day on national TV and be super judged as a chick, frankly. And I judge myself harder as a woman. I did that too.
Yeah, no one ever says, it was a great show tonight, but Tyrus blouse, what the was he thinking? Like, never happens. Like, I literally wear the stuff I wear in the gym to work, and no one ever. The most I get is why is one pant leg up, and it's because I belong to a gang.
You're you.
But
you're you, and I love that, and you've been allowed to do. And also back then, I don't know that they had those kind of shows where you would have been able to do that either.
No, this just started here. I just said one day, like, I tried the neck thing, the tie thing. You can't see it. I have traps and a giant, I got this much neck and a beard. So me wearing a tie is, other than the symbolicism of, hey, I have a tie on, just take me at my word.
That's a waste of time.
Because and I zip up here, so you're not seeing it. So there's no.
You're you.
Yeah, and me in slacks, they just don't. it's just
So you created
no one's
it.
comfortable.
You created it.
Yes, I just stuck.
By the way, back in the day, I wouldn't have come in this either, like a tank top and jeans. Even though it's a more casual interview, I still would have dressed it up more. And now, like, this is me. You're lucky you got makeup because I really needed makeup today. Otherwise, I'm like sweatpants, flip flops, baseball cap. Try to control this. I'm out.
I'm casual.
Yeah.
But the way you said casual, that mean like, is that mean, because that's like the third time I've heard this in my interviews. Does that mean like we're like B team?
No,
You guys knew this all?
It means that you're not.
A plus, okay.
You're not like tight. You're not. Like,
No, I can't. I don't even fit in this chair. Now I have to, because we talked a lot about ESPN and stuff, and I kind of wanted to talk about that. But I don't feel like that defines you. When I look like your future now, you had me. I always thought you was a sports woman, as a news woman. I didn't really think about entertainment. And listen, I'm a tough person to get consistently going. If my crew's not on, I don't watch. But once you're my crew, I'm always watching.
Yeah.
So when you disappeared from morning sports, I was like, where's Sage at? You know, it was like when Shannon left F1, I was like, sorry, Skip, I can't.
Yeah.
I got to go with Shannon. You know, and then you left, and I was like waiting to see Fox Sports 1 or something, but you just kind of broke away from it, and now you're going in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And I did one of your podcast interviewers, and I'm not a good interviewer. I have conversations. I don't know how to ask a real reporter question to save my life. They're probably all too long. But you're very good at doing the interview, because we talked about stuff that I normally would just make a joke and change the subject on. And even after I was walking back, I was giggling. She got me. And, you know, but then you also got Kat, and you also got, I saw a list of characters that were in there, and it was like
that day.
Rappaport, yeah. So even as much as your first love is to call the game, this new avenue that you're going into, talking about, you're calling people's lives. And that's kind of cool if you look at it, because you highlight things very well. You ask questions. Like, it's almost like you're being interviewed about a sport, but it's like you're talking about your life. I think that's why you get people to open up so much, because it just feels like you're being like, I just hit a home run after the game, and you're like, hey, what were your thoughts during the process? And then you just start talking and you just spit things out. The more you do that, is that something you think can fill that hole? Because for me, it was like, all I wanted to do was wrestle or play football and stuff. You can ask anyone here if they would have said, hey, would you ever see Tyrus working at Fox News? They'd be like, what? No, I still.
Yeah, exactly.
There was never a time in my life where like it wasn't working out, and I told the homies like, yo, this football stuff doesn't work out, man. I'm gonna go down to Fox News, tell like it is. That never happened.
This wasn't on the list.
It was not on the list, but it ended up.
First of all, you were awesome, and I was honored that you did open up. That wasn't my plan. I think what I noticed through the many years at ESPN, and actually I go back to that little girl who just wanted to tell stories. Like, I love the game. I love the highlights. I'm obsessed with it. I'm not as much now. But I wanted to know the story behind it. I wanted to know what made John Elway great, or Simone Biles. Like, it's not just about the result and the athlete itself. It's what's here. And I've always wanted that. And sometimes, like the last show I did for the last 3 years was the noon Eastern SportsCenter. And I had the best team and the best co-host, and I loved it. So we could go a little longer on the interviews. And so it was like 8 minutes instead of 4 or 3.
Which is a lifetime on TV.
It is. And I loved it. And then they segment producers would give you some question ideas. And every time I'm like, no, because I can get that by a Google search. Okay, you just won the NBA championship. How the hell do you think it feels? That's a stupid question. We're not asking that. Like, let's go a little deeper. I want him to take me inside the huddle, somewhere I've never been and never will. And neither will 99% of our viewers. So, like, that's my job, is to ask different questions.
And that does translate to other things besides sports. It
does. And so I feel like I started that years ago before I even knew what it was.
Right.
That was always where my heart was. But then on SportsCenter, I mean, I'm like, I need something, number one, that lets them know that I care. I'm not just, okay, who's next on the list? And it drove my producers crazy sometimes, because I wanted to know more than just.
You wanted to ask the question that no one else was asking.
Yes. But
like, hey, how was your morning?
But it was truly out of curiosity. Like, it wasn't forced. I am so curious about other human beings. And so my new show is, I don't want it to be called an interview show or consider that, because it is a conversation, just like you, where you interrupt each other and you go back and forth. You're like, wait, or you cry. Sometimes if I'm at the LA studio, there is wine flowing or whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, like gangster wine stuff again.
No, vodka, whatever. High noon, I don't care.
I'm sorry, just the way you say vodka tells me you don't drink vodka. Like you
tell me how I say it.
You say it like it's way more powerful than it is. Like
it is on my body, maybe not yours.
Dash between the bod and the cup.
Listen, it probably affects me quicker than it affects you.
Because if you're a wine drinker,
no,
vodka.
How much do you weigh?
That might be personal. How much do you weigh? I weigh 357 pounds.
I'm 139. Okay.
Did Gary laugh?
My point is, it probably affects me quicker than you, so I can say vodka how I want.
Now, listen, I'm not correcting anyone's dialect. It's just funny because you've been all like proper in it, but then Lil Hood came out with vodka.
It only takes one glass of wine or anything, so I'm one and done. Okay.
You're one done. Okay, hold on, real quick. I just want to go back to one thing because if I don't, it's going to be in my mind forever. So when you went to the payphone to call collect, did you ever do this? Because I used to go to the mall to hang out or stand in a group of basically a bunch of dudes too scared to say anything to the girls walking by, but we stood together. And you'd always have to call and check in. But if you called collect and you said, you have a collect call from, I'm at the mall, I'll be home in 20 minutes, your mom didn't have to collect it. She could just hang up. Did you ever do that?
That smart.
Oh, man, yeah, that was my thing. Like,
they got charged.
You have a collect call from, I'm going to play at the park another 20 minutes, I'll be home at 8:30.
Did you ever do it and say the call from the New York Correctional Facility? Like just...
No.
Tyrus has been arrested.
No, that was you know this probably just as well as I do. That's probably the last thing, the phone call. Because my mom would have went, click.
Good luck.
That's it.
Have a great
She even said that, like, don't get arrested because your ass going to stay in there. I ain't bailing you out.
And now don't go to sleep.
And I believed her.
You don't want to fall asleep in there.
Yeah, I believed her. She's like, yeah, you big and strong, but you pretty, so... You figured that out.
Those eyes.
Yep. So
I said that. I think remember when we were on the phone and I was with my mom, I was like, I think I said, if I had Tyrus's eyes, Mom, I would be crushing life. And she's like, what are you talking? I'm like, never mind.
It's not like they're in 3D or anything. Like they always talk about the color.
I would not.
I always hear women will always say like, oh, I wish I had your eyelashes and your eyes. I'm like, take them. They're completely wasted on me. I don't get it.
My next life. Watch out, America.
I'm telling you that, I don't know, maybe my life would be significantly different if I had brown eyes.
It'd be very boring, like mine.
Put the weight on it.
It'd be very boring.
Yeah. How many times have you heard, oh, man, Sage, she's real proud. Did you see her eyes? Can't do that. Matter of fact, that was a big thing in this interview today is I was hoping that they would convince you to wear sunglasses during the interview so I wouldn't lose likes because I got this brown-eyed, hideous thing here.
I almost wore glasses because my eyes are so... Like when you're that tired, you know how you're so tired that your eyes are like throbbing and watering? I almost wore glasses, but I was like, you know what? No, au natural.
There you go. Well,
kind of.
So
where were we?
No, because your DNA is sports, right? And the name of your new show is
The Sage Steele Show.
Sage Steele Show. Well, it's original. At least you get a last name.
Thanks for watching.
I was on it.
Right.
I've been watching. I've been clicking through it.
You still don't know the name. It's fine.
I'm bad with names. I'm good with faces. But so what would your ultimate goal be? Because, OutKick is a sports network that also dabs in entertainment. I'm just letting you know that OutKick is a sports.
It's funny. It's so funny because when I left ESPN, it's so weird. I never got a call from OutKick.
OutKick just started. Like We've been. You can see we only have 2 chairs in the building right now, but this place is going to be filled.
Funny.
Right?
No, but I was on the Clay and Buck show.
We got monitors and stuff.
It's crazy.
Wait a minute. That means you.
See, they just assume no one has a conversation. That's the problem. Then definitely, he's going to take it all. That's fine.
Well, no, actually, they told me that I could stay in here, so. There's so much room in here for activities.
There's a lot you could do.
When I first, let me ask you a question. When you came in here, did you think it was a hit? Like when you turned the corner and saw like there was nothing here, you didn't think it was a hit?
I'm very trusting of you.
Oh, the first time I walked in here for this interview, I went, and I was just waiting.
It's over.
Pop. I thought it was.
No, I actually think it's super cool and much better than any studio. Like I love this. It's just chill and people walking around. I love it.
I mean, a couple bunk beds here.
You made me think already about you asked it 60 seconds about the ultimate goal.
Yeah, what is next? Because you're betting on yourself.
I am, and I never thought I would. Because 28 years of corporate television, network, regional, local. All I've known is to work for somebody.
I think of like Michelle Tafoya is another one who
left.
She left.
She's one of the goats.
Bet on herself. Yeah.
I love Michelle Tafoya. She's I think the best sideline reporter, top 2 ever.
Oh, all time.
And no one that's working now can be even in that same sentence.
No.
But Bonnie Bernstein, incredible, and Andrew Kramer, sorry. There's a way to do it. There's a professionalism with it. By the way, I never ever wanted to do sidelines. Michelle is that just an incredible human being who's brilliant, and she'll be running for office someday.
Oh, I'm knowing. She does the Gutfeld show quite a bit. Exactly. You've done it a couple times too.
Yeah. So I think I'm still figuring that out. And that's weird because I've had all these specific goals since I was 11 years old, my whole life. This is what I want to do. And if I'm going to get to ESPN, this is what I have to do to get there. So all the different internships and jobs and on TV in the morning and waiting tables at night and all the things through the years to get there. Then you get there and then you stay there for a long time. Then you
built a tradition
more further than I ever imagined was even possible. And so then you leave willingly. I mean, it was not at all what I would have wanted or dreamt of for sure, but I would never change anything now based on how it's helped me grow and stand up and believe in myself and maybe most importantly, help others who have felt silenced and felt really, really, really freaking scared. I lived in fear. And so now I know that if I could survive that and if I could sue Disney and ESPN, which broke my heart, but I could still wake up the next morning and I was still standing. I was so scared. They knew. And I'm still standing. And not only am I standing, I'm trying new things.
You're starting new stuff.
And showing my kids that you can't live in fear. So now I'm not as afraid to dream, to keep dreaming bigger because I kind of stopped dreaming because I was content.
Yeah.
And it had taken so long to get there.
You were at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, but I'll say this, and I think hopefully you would believe me when I say this, just based on how much we've talked in the last several months, but the only thing that changed with that success was my confidence and realizing that I belonged when I never thought I did. But I will always be as humble and gracious because that's how I was raised. As a military kid with a West Point father who made me do room inspections.
Never dropped it once. He's like, I'm a Hall of Fame. Never one time. Well, I got to remember that.
Saturday mornings, we had to have room inspections every Saturday morning growing up, where it was like we were at West Point like he was, and I didn't have the brains to get in, and he'd knock on the door twice, and we have to salute.
Now that I think about that.
And he'd walk in and march around and check everything, and he'd say, are you prepared for inspection? We're like, yes, sir. Every infraction, which means if your bed wasn't made properly, or if you tried to shove your dirty clothes under the bed or whatever, 10 push-ups. So
wow. You would think
I had great
you were either really clean or you should have been a lot better at sports.
Well, I know. I had really good arms.
You were,
because I was doing but I always beat my brothers. That he did it to create competition.
Yes, I do the same thing with my daughters and sons.
And to create respect for your things. We had no money. Are you kidding me? No one goes.
But you didn't know you were poor, though.
Had no idea.
Not until you got to college.
Because I was rich, and it sounds so cheesy, but my family, we were rich in so many ways, and that's something that I will never take for granted. That has kept me so humble. If I ever had started to believe any of the hype, and more success, and more people recognize you, and more money, and all those things, I would have had a long line of people lined up to break my ass down. My mom, my dad, my grandparents, my 2 younger brothers, my kids. Everybody would have been nice try, that's not who you are. And also witnessing those who did allow it to get like that, their head to get like that, all the people that a lot of us know.
You see them. And
when I saw how
they walk by like this, and then when they go back, they go like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the light comes on, all of a sudden you're not. How did you treat that intern a second ago?
You never know
who
the interns are.
No, but as a human being, why would you make someone feel smaller because you're stressed out? And so I witnessed enough of that from people that I totally idolized that I was like, oh my gosh, is this what happens when you make it?
No, that's what happens when they make it.
Correct. But that's another reason why we will never treat people differently no matter how much success.
No, because I've been on the other side. As a bodyguard being talked to sideways, and it used to drive me insane because any time I could end you, I could just reach over and crush your larynx and end you, but you talk to me because I wasn't aware that your assistant got you the wrong flavored cheesecake. And I'm like, but there's people like that, and I always, whenever you, but I think sometimes being, I don't use the word biracial because I don't think it exists, but when you're light skinned, because I always laughed at that, like you get it on both sides, well, you're not black enough as when they're mad at you, and then white people always notice, like no matter what, even if they're the nicest white person in the world, they still notice that you're not quite like us. Where the other side is the other side is like, oh no, you think you're better than me because you red bone? You're not. And so I always kind of looked at the thing like, it wasn't like the Klan be like, oh, grab this one. Oh, he's a little yellow. Let him go. We'll put him back. He's not dark enough yet. So I always kind of like looked at that kind of like, man, but we deal with always being on limited terms with everybody. Right. Like when we're good for them, we're one of them. Yeah. And then when you're not, they let you know you're just not quite enough, or but that can eat at you in some cases, or make you shy or afraid to speak up. Or there's the other side of it where it makes you a complete smart ass loudmouth who wants to beat everyone who's different than him. That's where it was for me. I walked around with the chip on my shoulder that says, "Yeah, bring it up. I can't wait for you to bring it up."
And physically, you could.
And I think but over time, that weight doesn't go away with success. That chip on your shoulder ends up in every other aspect of your life, even a relationship where someone says something to you that you probably needed to hear. But because you have this chip always saying, nope, anyone says anything I don't like, I'm going to fight back with them. So there's two ways to do it, but both ways at extremes can't help you once you get there. Right. And so you were a little more insecure, but then once you got to where you realize, like, no, I belong here.
But that didn't happen until...
No, nothing happens quick. No, I walked around with this chip till I was in my 40s before I realized...
Me too.
Before I realized that, like, why am I so pissed off trying to beat everybody all the time? Like,
well, and listen, we all have something.
Everyone's got something.
For sure. Some have more than others. No, but I think I didn't fully appreciate that aspect of it as far as how it affected me so deeply until the last few years. And
do you ever see it in your kids?
So my kids don't look like me. My kids look like they're Italian or Spanish or...
So they pass, quote, unquote.
Yeah. So my mom's white, Irish Italian. My dad's black. My kid's dad is all white. They're super light. They don't even have a curl. Like, I have 3 kids with straight hair, and I'm pissed. I thought I'd get one cute little girl with like caramel skin who had some curls, and it'd be like, oh, look at your little girl. No, I was asked if I'm the nanny so many times. I'm like, I pushed her out, you ass. Like, why would you ask me that? Like,
Gary thinks that's funny. Very insensitive. Have Gary removed?
No, I was so devastated as a young mother. I was 29, and you have the baby, and you're so excited, and then they ask you if you're the nanny. I was like, yeah, that's because my oldest, they got darker as they went. But if I had like one more kid, a 4th kid, I would have had someone that maybe looked like me. But I'm like, no, they just used my body.
See, that's the one nice thing about us brothers is if we're holding a baby, they just assume it's ours.
Even if it's not?
Yeah, what's the chances that happens?
Even if you don't even know it's yours?
No, I mean, I did a couple of...
You're like, are you...
You can't hide this nose. So, yeah, that was only like my situation is every time I was like, I'll be the... Oh, yeah. Do we need a DNA test? Nah. But the good news is that, but all my kids are different ethnicities. So I know I'm cute in every ethnicity, which I was curious about. And now I know because, and my daughter, Georgie's mom is white. So Georgie's probably looks very similar to your daughter's, except she doesn't have the hair. It's thicker. But, every once in a while I'll see she's got like this part of me. The rest is all her mom. But the face, all my kids have the same, like my face is like
yes.
It's like my calling card. That and I got my little Mongolian mole. All my kids have them on their thigh, the exact same place.
Really? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, my kids always say to my dad, like, I've said to him, I'm like, Dad, you have weak black genes. What the hell? How are all three of my kids like so white?
Or brilliant. Because here's the thing, my grandmother, who was, I know did you ever hear this when
You're
many years
already.
ago? I'm laughing because I have to laugh at this. So I'm about to tell you a racist story, but it's a funny racist story. And they're going to go uncomfortable. So I was dating a girl named Sharon. And Sharon,
A girl named Sharon.
Sharon. And Sharon was as dark as midnight. Beautiful, but she was dark. And my grandmother, who was as dark as her, with white hair, I showed her a picture of when I was in college. I met my father's grandparents, or his parents, for the first time since I was younger. And we had this big meeting, and I showed a picture, and she looked and she went, "Oh, come with me." And I was like, "Well, what's the problem? I just showed you a picture of my girlfriend." And she's like, "Come with me." And she walks and she sits me down. She takes me by the hands, and she was like, and my nickname, I don't want to get into it, but they called me Ninch for some reason. And she was like, "We worked hard." And then she's holding my hands and she's slapping my hands. "We worked hard to get you this color. And you going to go mess it up?
Oh my
How are your baby's going to get jobs? So you need to find an Asian woman, a white woman, a different woman than other black women, so your children can have better jobs," because that's where her mind was.
Wow.
Now that was some racist shit, but
Wow.
and ironically, I didn't know she was a fortune teller at the time either, because I literally went out and made one with a different, not on purpose. It wasn't the plan.
Actually,
What I'm saying,
for anyone who wants details of that, making one with all the, watch Tyrus's episode of the Sage Steele Show, because he goes deep into it. And
well, on
when
my
I
stand-up
listen
show,
to it-
I tell
when
everybody
listen-
about it.
Right. Well, who cares about that?
Yeah.
You can watch my show.
Well, I kind of care.
Of course I care. But when I listened to it again, I was just dying because I didn't know that about you. And when you were like, well, and then.
See, I'll talk about it like nothing.
I love it, though. I love it. So anyway.
Yeah, I used to, like I said, that was something that I would never bring up, ever. And it was just like my kids would always be like, "Dad, are we triplets?" I'm like, kind of. You're different uteruses, but you're all, when we travel together, TSA and stuff is always fun. And I always ask, "How old's you? What's your name? How old are you?" And it's 13, 13, 13 across the board, and none of their hairs match. But that's
And they
part
look
of
at you and you just go.
And before I used to be like, "Why do they ask this?" Now I just stare back at them.
Well, what are they going to do?
And then no one has ever said, "Are you the nanny?" Not one time. Not so. I got that going.
No, it hurt just because as a young mom, you're like, I was so proud, and she is 22 now and a senior in college, and she's the one that's right
now. Do any of your children going into the sports world? Anyone following in your footsteps?
No, they were all decent athletes. My son almost ran in college there. He's at a small D1 school, High Point, but the last second was like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, good, because to me, it's an incredible experience, but at a certain level, like unless you want to go pro or go to the Olympics, that college experience is the best, most important experience that I had in my life. And when you're a D1 athlete or any, D3, your sport is your life, and you're not going to get to go to the party.
You go to school to play
You're
sports.
not
Let's
gonna
be honest.
hang
I
out
wasn't
in
at
the
the
dorm
University of
till
Kearney,
midnight.
Nebraska for the teaching credential.
Right.
I mean, I took it when I graduated, but I'm just saying,
Sure.
when
But
I got
feel
there,
like that experience it changed my life. It shaped me. It molded me. And I have my freshman's at Ole Miss. She's all in. She just went to her second football game, and she's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, I told you this is different down here, and she'll never be back to the Northeast." I needed them to. I told them I wasn't going to pay for their college because they basically grew up in Connecticut where ESPN is. So I'm not paying for your college unless you go out of the Northeast.
Then they did.
All of them. Because I wanted them to experience something different. We did live in Arizona, like I said, for 3 years and came back. But I got to experience that. I had no choice. And living in different countries and different cultures where in the Army, like everybody's mixed race. I mean, your color literally does not matter.
Yeah,
race does not matter. I say it's the most diverse yet sheltered environment you could grow up in because there's all different kinds of people. And it's sheltered because they just accept you and they don't care.
Because the structure is more important. The mission.
It's a family feeling growing up like that. My kids didn't. So I'm like, you're going to go find it. Or you can take out $200,000 in loans, have fun, but I'm not paying for it unless you go try something else. and they've all done it, and I'm really proud of that. And for them to experience different things, they are super close to my family. My family's much bigger than their dad's family, but I just think it's the biggest blessing. I really do, to be both, to be black and white, and to experience my mom's Irish-Italian super Catholic family in West Springfield, Massachusetts, and my dad's black family, and he grew up as an Army kid too, so like all over the world. That's diversity.
Yeah, no.
That's
real diversity is you don't have to force it.
You have to force
it just kind of happens.
And I don't know. And so as far as sports, like, no, my kids are smarter than me. And they also saw a lot. They saw a lot that I experienced, and they had a beautiful upbringing. They said that recently, despite some challenges along the way. And, when your parents' marriage,
there's no way you cannot.
Correct. Yeah. Right. I mean, there's a lot of things involved for every family, but they also saw what comes with a high-profile career. They saw
the pressure,
the mom getting death threats. They got threatened. People threatened to rape my daughters because of their moms, because of my opinion.
Because you told them to act the score. Yeah, I get that's
so
hard
I'm
for
glad.
me.
I'm glad. Now I would support it, of course, but I'm glad because. But the good thing is they've been there, done that now, and they've reaped the benefits, of course. And I said that to them too. Like, you don't like this, but you like this. You like this trip we're going on. So you have to. There's stuff that comes with it.
Because that was my other question: does it bother you? Because my son is 6'3", and he's just turned 13, and he's breaking all kinds of weightlifting records, and he's on this 17th travel baseball team. He's got all these people paying attention to him, and he's the next monster. But also, my son is the guy who likes to spend 2 hours customizing his Dragon Ball Z action figures. So I'm like, if he doesn't go into sports, are you going to care? I'm like, no, as long as my son's happy.
And it's cliche, because every parent says that, but you really mean it.
No, I mean it, because I do know how much of my life was sports saved my life, but at the same time, it also kept blinders on me too. So a lot of the things that I was not equipped to deal with off the field, I had no training for when the field was taken from me. Yes. Like when you play ball to where it's your routine, like the team is your parent. You know where to go, where to sit, when to eat, when to train, everything. And all you have to do is just not fuck up Saturday night to Sunday to make it to Monday. You got 2 days to not screw up. Yeah, from the time the game's over to them. And then I was very good at not screwing up from Saturday till Monday. But once that was taken from me, I was lost. I mean, I just
I think it's so interesting
lost.
Because now the professional leagues do such a great job with it. My brother's, he's actually in sports. He's the head of public relations for the Baltimore Ravens. This is his 23rd season. He was at the 49ers before that. So we actually have fascinating conversations through the years. I covered the Ravens when he was one of the PR guys.
Yeah, because I would love to have a fascination conversation. You got Henry, you don't run 25. I don't want to. I'm sorry.
Yes, 100%. But so it's so fascinating because he's the PR perspective. He's the liaison between the coaches and the team and people like me.
Right.
So we've had a lot of arguments through the years and great conversations. But he has witnessed so much with so many of these young men who come in, don't come from much, all of a sudden have millions of dollars and no structure away from the facility.
And nothing goes faster than that $1 million.
So fast, especially when you're trying to take care of all the family and all the friends.
Trying to be the man that you never knew.
Correct. Yes.
And don't know how to be.
It's so deep. So now they do a great job with true departments with each team that will help guide these young men during and after, because it's a big deal. And my kids have been around that too, right? So they have been able to see kind of from a unique perspective, like the Ray Rice situation in Baltimore, what can happen. Who, let me tell you, he truly was, my brother says, the best player he has ever worked with as far as I don't mean football, in the community, helping out, like volunteering his time. He would come to them and say, what do you need from me this week? And he had one moment
that was
as bad as humanly possible. I mean, barring except for a couple other things like true murder.
Yeah, but
right?
But it was not a great moment.
But that was a difference because we've had way too many athletes at his level in the NFL, NBA, who beaten up on women, and it's just not on tape, so it's okay.
But they can still play the playoff game. I think the thing about the reason why we'll always remember him is because he owned it. He didn't shy away from it. And I remember as an athlete at the time rolling my eyes at it. But then when I saw him going to universities, talking to kids, and this wasn't 5 years later.
No.
This is when he was still being made fun of. This is when people were still making gifts of him and of his wife. And for him to have that courage, I was like, man, I don't know. I don't think I would have ever showed my face in front of the camera again.
And guess what? He didn't get paid. Like,
no, not a dime.
Literally, it ruined his life. And he has to be accountable for his actions, and he has been. And they got married, and they're super happy. Like, they're a good family.
If he would have went to jail, he would for a year for assault. It would have been less damaging to his career than it was in public opinion.
Correct. And the timing of that, et cetera. And it's just fascinating to me because, again, you have...
Now, I'm not saying he didn't deserve everything he got in terms of being... But we do have a problem with redemption in this country.
Absolutely.
Especially... And I hate saying this because I hate the groups, but especially when black athletes make mistakes, there's usually no room for redemption at all. They're just tainted.
So
and
that's
that
why I
always
look at Michael
bothered.
Vick and how incredible it is what he has done, been given the opportunity. Now, if he weren't Michael Vick, if he were a no-name player, would he have been given that opportunity?
No, and here's the cold part is they were people using... I'm sure he knew it, but it was a situation where everyone was using his name to buy dogs and stuff and do all this stuff. And it was more like the dogs that weren't even his, but because his name was attached to it, because he was so popular, it was more to bring him down, I think, than anything else.
He was...
He was no angel in it.
Way too involved in it.
But yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But you know who has been a very good friend of mine since I covered his team, his Buccaneers team from 98 to 01 is Tony Dungy. And Mr.
Dungy is one of the most coolest, most laid-back people. Yeah, every time I've met him, it's always like
the best human I've ever met in sports. Human being. Any sport, not coach, human. He is that incredible of a person. Made him very difficult to cover because when he didn't give the ball to Mike Allstott or Ward Dunn, and it was just Warren Sapp's defense that was doing everything, we're like, but you're so nice. I don't want to call you on this. Could you please not be as nice so I can do my job? But he talked about the time he spent with Michael Vick in prison and after. And when Tony Dungy comes out publicly and says he is a changed man.
Oh, I believe it.
To me, I say, hell yeah, I'm giving him another chance. By the way, just because his thing was it was terrible and very public doesn't mean that this person over here doesn't deserve the same grace.
Right, yeah.
And I have a major issue these days with people who judge.
They're usually the ones with the most to hide.
Yeah, and by the grace of God, it's not me. Tomorrow it might be where I make a bad decision that's publicized. And I know how imperfect I am, and I work on it every day, like I do. But, with the fame and the money, the extra pressure absolutely is there. But I agree with you with redemption and how important it is. Honestly, I think about that.
Well, you're not really a redemption situation, though. Because
For me?
Yeah,
No.
No, because you chose to walk away from something. So this is about, I guess I have to change the name of my show because you're maintaining. Because you're able to continue to go. Because you didn't fail at ESPN. You said, I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's a restart, a revamp.
It is.
A reopening under new management. But even though it's the same. Well, you don't have the same manager now, I would assume, right?
I don't have anybody.
So, yeah, under new management.
I don't have an agent. I don't have a boss. I don't have any of it. It's really weird.
Gary, okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
But, but the whole point is when you were let down by the people in those positions. Some of them you work for, some of them you pay to work with you and for you.
Yes.
And they let you down. Then it's on me if I stay. It is.
And that's why I don't have any. I have a contract lawyer that I only speak to probably when my contract
But I'm learning that because that's a scary space to do alone. And
but no one really knows you better than you.
Correct.
But the hardest thing for me to do is talk about me. So once you can talk about you in third person, without going, I sound like an asshole.
You just wish your work spoke for it, and then how your treatment.
Yeah, but if that was the case, then it's the problem is that your work speaks for you, but you have to speak for your work because there's a lot of people who speak instead of work.
See how I look at it? I'm like, I know.
Because there's a lot of people who are full of shit and can talk all day, and you never see their work. But that's the person will get the nod because they're the one going, look at me, they're doing the Tim Walsh jazz hands. And people, bring them in. And then they use someone like you who doesn't say much, like, can you help them get up to speed? And you're like, what, huh?
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
We have to be our own advocate, and I am learning that. And to be honest with you, I've been in this crazy vortex for the last few years leading up to my departure from ESPN, because it was 22 months from the moment I got suspended to the moment I settled. 22 months. Going on the air every day, by the way, on TV every day with an active lawsuit was crazy. I look back on that like, oh my gosh, how did I compartmentalize and do my 2-hour live show every day?
Do you think that was all preparing you for where you are now? Because
yes, I do, but I actually think I did my best work then too, with the most fear that I had in here every damn day walking in there, and the most pressure, because I was like, oh, now they want me to fail. Now they want me to.
Now you're walking on eggshells, but they don't crack.
Right? I was right. I never walked more lightly than then during that time. But I also, and this is something I haven't shared too often, but when I went back to work after the suspension, and they don't like to call it suspension, they're like, because they paid me. I was like, well, yeah, there's paid suspensions all the time in sports. Leave, whatever, it is what it is. You pulled me from the airwaves.
Silenced
public apology, taking assignments, all the things. But the day I went back, and I was so scared because I'd been told by bosses, like, you really pissed off a lot of people, and and so I went in like, oh my gosh. And again, that person who's afraid of upsetting others, it hit like really, really deep. And I thought, but they know me. So how, as a human,
you just never knew them.
Correct. But I also probably took what my bosses said too literally in some ways. Anyway, the first day I went back to work, my mom and dad came up to visit because I was a mess. And I'd also been really sick with COVID, like really sick during the suspension that happened because
so you couldn't even go on vacation.
But the fact that I got in trouble for talking mainly about a vax mandate.
Right.
Because the vax I'm being forced to get, that doesn't prevent me from getting it. And then while I'm suspended, I got super sick on the COVID that was supposed to be prevented from the stupid vax you made me take. And now I'm going to work. So they came up because I was really sick and because I was scared to go back. And before I left that day, my dad, football, Gary Steele, huddle up.
Yep.
Me and my mom and my best friend, who's my makeup artist, was at ESPN and on my show quite often. He's like, you've got this. And we said a prayer. And for Catholics, it's St. Michael the Archangel, and it's like protecting us from the wickedness and snares of the devil. Basically, when you walk into a room and you feel something,
you got back
protected. And so we said that prayer that day. And every single day, I would pull up in the parking lot, and I'd call my mom and dad before I walked in that building. And the three of us would say that prayer together every day. And so when I walked in there, my stomach was flipping. I felt butterflies. And I also always had this adrenaline rush because I'm doing 2 hours of live national TV.
Yeah.
But I went in feeling like I was going to be okay no matter what someone threw at me, no matter what vibe I got from some of the slackers who are still there, who couldn't look men, who couldn't look me in the eye, but they could talk on the internet.
Yeah.
And so I literally, Tyrus, wouldn't change a thing because it made me tougher. It made me realize I can compartmentalize like the best of them. Mm-hmm. And it made my faith so much stronger. So now I have to get out of my box more so and say, well, what more do you want to do? Now that my kids are off to college, like I feel like now, as of
you're an empty nester.
As of last night, my house is closing in Connecticut right now. Like the new life starts today.
Wow.
So I have to literally, like it's emotional. I have to think differently and realize that the sky's the limit because I can try whatever and I'm probably going to fall on my face. But now I know I'm going to get back up and it's okay. And I'm still going to breathe and I'm still going to somehow pay my bills. And most importantly, inside, I haven't settled. I haven't caved any longer to people who say they like me until what? Until I don't follow their narrative.
Right.
So there's a real freedom even when you're disliked because now I know I can get through anything as long as I have my faith, my kids, my parents and my very, 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 very small circle of friends that has gotten much smaller in recent years, I know that I'm okay.
And you know you got real friends. Because I always say, listen, I get booed a lot and people say stuff, and I always say the same thing. I know what you cheer for. Your boos give me self-esteem. So I know how to play on the road. I love it.
It's beautiful that you could take that, because not everyone can.
Because you think about why
negativity and let it motivate you. And now, first of all, I don't even look at I had Ari Spears on last week on my show, and I love him to death. I looked at my comments, and he's like, I mean, there's hundreds of Aries responses to all that they were calling him, and I was like, good for you.
I ain't got time for that.
I understand why he does it.
The good the good comments are worse than the bad ones, because you start believing the that they tell you, you're gonna have a problem. Like, oh, you're the best, you're so great. Those ones are just as bad as the ones saying, I hate you, Tyrus, you're stupid. You know,
I used to be like, no, wait, this is what I meant. No, really, I'm a nice person, and then you realize it doesn't.
You don't know this person, no.
But they don't care about you. Who cares about me? Like, I know you care about me now. Yeah. I care about you. I have those people that do, and no matter what, I will say this, and I'll shut up. I'm sorry, I got on a rant because I got emotional.
No, this is good for me. I need
on an airplane, at an airport, at a restaurant, in the last 5-6 months since my show came out, and actually since I left ESPN, the lawsuit, I cannot tell you the infinite number of people, like more, that have come up to me and like, I love your work. Thank you for speaking up. I'm more, who cares, right? But I'm just saying, recognizable now than 17 years at ESPN, because I'm being true to myself.
You stood up for something at a time when everybody else was taking knees.
Correct, but I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to be like, hey, look at me.
I don't think your dad was trying to be the first black. He just wanted to play ball.
I just pray that this big mouth of mine that got me in trouble can help others realize, like, it will take you down if you aren't true to yourself. I didn't realize the impact it had on me and how much it affected me, and making yourself smaller for others to feel comfortable. So if that isn't the only message, if that is the only message people take, I am good, because it pains me to know that others felt the way that I did.
I guarantee you, if you would have played ball and said, get your vax or you're an ass or whatever, you might still be there, but I bet inside you would be not who you wanted to be. And it would lead to so many other negative things when you're not true to yourself. That's the one thing I have learned. One nice thing about me being here at Fox is first of all, who in their right mind is going to go in my office and say, yo, you're saying this tonight? For good fucking luck. I enjoy going out in blazes of glory. That's what I used to call it getting fired a lot, when you make it just, you know, you measure it, you weigh it, and you're like, I could get fired if I say this, but if I don't, and I'm always like, well,
can I look at myself in the mirror?
Yep, and I'm like, you know what? I got this job. I could probably get another one. All right, John Laurinaitis, this storyline sucks. I'm not doing it. All right, who wants to get lunch? And then, then you're released. But at least you're like, I didn't have to be the guy who can't look the other guys in the eyes.
And all I ever wanted was to be looked in the eye.
Yeah.
Was for someone in a leadership position, or my peers, the Ryan Clarks of the world, who was like, I'm not going on SportsCenter with her. We were tight. We were friends. I loved that guy.
Yeah.
Like, really did. And so for a friendship to end and change because of an opinion, like, again, just be a man or woman.
A man is, like, we talked about, we didn't know what a woman was for so long. The bullshit is, we don't know what a man is right now, because there's a lot of bullshit, fake ass. Like, there's nothing to me, and everyone has their things. I can't stand thieves. I ain't got no place for them, and I can't stand men who talk behind people's back. That is the biggest bitch-made move. Like, you might as well sit down when you pee, call me, I don't give a damn. But that, to me, is the most punk shit.
Very bad visual.
Like, that's the worst kind of, like, what? So you can't look somebody in the face and man up and tell them, like, listen, I respect your decision, but I don't want to work with you. How hard is that?
How about, listen, this is the 18-second soundbite I heard that I'm now judging you on. What did you mean by that? Or what's the context, especially knowing that you know me as a human?
Yeah.
For men, women, green, blue, black, I don't care. If you have a relationship or friendship with someone,
you couldn't call me and tell me you had an issue? Like,
so I would try. One in particular, I won't mention his name because it is what it is, but like, I did call, I tried, I voicemailed everything. He wouldn't pick up. He's like, I'll be good with you. I'll be professional with you, but I'm out. My mom heard what you said, and she doesn't like you now, so I'm out. I'm like, wait, what?
Your mom's born on top of it. Oh, wow.
But the point is, there's a lot of pain. if you are confused by something someone says, it upsets you, it hurts you, it whatever, and you actually have just have a conversation. And if you choose, and that's a choice, if you choose not to, I'm good. Because that shows, frankly, I'm sorry, Mom, like, grow a pair.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I
don't remember you saying anything that would even get to the level of somebody's mother calling them at work.
It was the Obama comments.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but like that weren't that bad.
Well, it was not breaking news when I said that Barack Obama's father was not around when he was raised, because he wrote a book about that.
Yeah, it was pretty much, and he doesn't. Did you see a lot of interviews of Barack's dad growing up, family pictures, or him and when Barack graduated college? Was dear old dad there with his arm around him in the pictures? No, because his dad wasn't.
But the point is, it wasn't even about.
Yeah, that. It doesn't matter.
It was about. Barbara Walters compared me to Barack, which is hysterical. He's the president. I was some sports chick, but like, she's like, well, why can't you just say you're black? I'm like, well, because I'm both. I'm black and white, and I'm very proud. And she goes, well, Barack Obama. This is 10 years ago. Yep. Barack on The View. Barack Obama does, and I'm like, well, good for him. His white mom and grandma raised him. His black dad was not there.
In this country. Listen, and I don't agree with you on this. I don't.
What?
I don't think you can be black and white. I honestly don't agree with you. But you know what? I'm not,
and so are you.
And I'm not going to argue with you about it. But if someone yells, "Hey, all the white people go over here," I'm going to be like, "You guys better go." And if I see you go, I'm going to be like, "You tripping? Bring your little ass back here."
You just said something crazy. What do you mean? First of all, I'm not trying to be black
and
white.
No, I'm saying that you have the right to say that's how you feel in your experience.
It's not how I feel. It's what I am. It's what you are. Now, how you choose to identify is different, but your DNA is just like
I have never been called white a day in my life.
Well, me either.
Yeah. And I never wanted to either.
No, but it isn't even about that. I haven't been called white either. Obviously, if people walked by the TV at the airport and saw me on TV, they weren't going to be like, who's that white girl with curly hair? No, they're going to say black. Fine. Of course, that's what I obviously am. When you're mixed with anything, you tend to lean that way as far as how people I choose to identify you. However, if I'm asked, which that was the point with Barbara Walters, if I'm filling out a census, which was her question, then I'm going to check both, because my mother is as important as my father, and
right, and that's why I respect that.
But that's what we
I look at it different. I look at it differently.
No, but you can look at it how you want, but that's what your DNA is, correct? Just like male, female. Like if you could
right, but in this country they take genetically. I think it's African and Jamaican on my father's side. My mother's side is pretty Scottish and Swedish. So there's pretty, in the Scots and the Swede. But when you came to America, when the colonies were formed, they didn't have time for all that shit, because European racism is much more refined. Very. It's more, like the Irish would be like, that's a Scottish guy over there. I ain't sitting with them. Like, you guys look the same. But it doesn't matter. No, Irish blood, not in my house. It's refined. It's different. Yeah. It's your blood type. It's to your argument, your DNA. So over there, yes, you would be a African, Italian. What was the other one?
Irish Italian.
Irish Italian. They would call you all the names that go with it. In America, the colonists didn't have time for that shit. They're like, look, if you're black or brown, you're black, and if you're white, you're white. That's it. So growing up in this culture, we didn't have the luxury of ever being able to be. I could never be Scottish. If I put a kilt on and went to school, to be like, this nigga's lost his mind. He's wearing a dress. And I'd be like, no, my grandfather's Scottish. And they'd be like, right.
But that's trying to, and I'm not trying to.
No, but as I get older, I'm like, well, maybe I might want to wear a kilt one time on TV.
Well, now it'd be welcomed, because now it's
but then then not only people tell me how brave I am and shit, because that's not.
Let me just clarify. My thing is only if we're allowing. I'm dead serious. I told you this. I think my daughter's high school and my son, where they graduated from up in Connecticut, there was a litter box in the hallway.
Yes,
okay.
Furries.
So if we're gonna say,
yes,
oh, this girl she's a cat today. Meow. Well,
then you can
identify however the hell you want.
Yeah, I can be beige and Asian.
But she's still a girl.
Yeah.
You are mixed race. I am mixed race.
But everybody in America is.
True. I'm just saying, obviously, when someone asks the question like Barbara Walters did, and you put a picture up behind me, they put it up behind me of my white mom and my black dad and my two brothers. Yes, I'm both.
But in essence, it was a really racist question to ask.
Of course it was. I should. If that were today, I would have handled it differently. Actually, probably not much, because
But you honoring your mother.
What's wrong with honoring my white
mom? Nothing. That's why you don't get any blowback from me.
But to many Black Americans, and what I said 2-3 years ago, and according to those people at ESPN who wouldn't work with me because of it.
Yeah, because
because I celebrate my white mom and my Black dad, and say I'm biracial, and not even call out, but mention Obama. Same setup here.
Yeah, and on top of that, be a little conservative too. What is wrong with you?
Do what he wants. I don't care.
Exactly.
But it's okay for me to celebrate my white mom too. And if you don't like it, turn the channel. Don't watch my show.
Here's the funny thing.
Don't tell me it's not okay when you're allowing this kid to be a girl one day, a boy the next, and a dog the next. So, stop.
Yeah, make up your mind, because it's funny, because Barack wasn't the one walking out.
That's not a fact.
But Barack wasn't. No, Barack wasn't the one walking out saying I'm the first Black president. That was just put on him. Like, oh, he's going to be the first Black president. He's going to be the first. No one ever said at any time during when he was elected, like, this biracial president. They had to let him know that you're Black. So, unfortunately, we get caught up in our own group and it's stupid and ugly, because you know what? My daughter is not going to go through life not honoring her mother. My son is Tongan. It's different when it's white, because my other mixed kids don't have this issue, and it's blowback on both sides, and it's hilarious because most white people in this country have a little brother in them, whether they like it or not, and most Black people got a little white in them, whether they like it or not, because apparently, again, we didn't have the internet or TV back then, so literally there was 2 things to do that started with an F on the weekend. It was like fight.
Stop it.
I'm just saying.
But here's the difference. What other group of people, some not all, in different cultures, attacks you for identifying with
there's only one person. There's only one group. That's African Americans.
That's my
the only
point.
Ones. Yep.
That's my point. And that's the problem, and that's the hypocrisy in it. And my take was, and I got in trouble for saying this probably 10 years ago, my take is, if you look at my mom and dad, Gary and Mona Steele, again, that thing that's on my Twitter page, that NFL film story, it goes into their life, stuff I didn't know. They got married in 1971.
When it was still illegal.
Coming off the civil rights era. I'm just saying that it was a completely
What state did they get married
in? They got married at West Point up in upstate New York. But the point is what? That was such a different time. October, they're married 53 years. You're damn right I'm going to celebrate that.
As you should.
And so I don't see what I said 10 years ago was, if you think about diversity and opening your mind to other cultures, let's look at my mom from that tiny little town in West Springfield, Massachusetts, probably somewhat racist. Her parents disowned her for marrying a Black man.
Yep.
Disowned her. Years later, they came back when I was 7 or 8 years old, but disowned her. And what did she do? She had the courage at 21, 22 years old to say, you know what, Mom and Dad, you're racist. I love this man, and I'm going to marry him, and left her family to be with this man. So you're going to tell me...
I'm not.
Not you. You're going to tell me that it's not okay to celebrate her as much as my father? You know where to take that, because you're a complete hypocrite, because that also is diversity.
It is,
just because it goes that way.
Diversity at its finest.
At its finest in an era. Now you can do whatever the hell you want. We just talked about it. Back then, America was not what it is today. So as far as racism and the changes that we still need to make, absolutely. But don't tell me we haven't come a long way. My parents are proof of it. And I get upset because when you tell me or any kid who loves all of their family, not just one side, that is racism. That is hypocrisy. And if we don't call it, it won't change. And I'm just done.
And with your experience, you should call it that way. Again, we can be different. It's okay.
It's a beautiful thing, actually.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we celebrate? So
yeah,
I still would. I'm mad at my mom. She has eyes like you, and I didn't get them. I'm still pissed. I'm like, Mom, you failed me.
But you got blonde, curly hair. I mean, that's something, right?
Me?
Height. You're tall.
I got the height.
Okay.
I keep getting lighter as I get more gray. So this is halfway natural, not all the way.
Oh, yeah, mine. Well,
see, men you can let the gray hair go too. You can be.
Oh, my fans were outraged. Like they were screaming.
When you dyed, it looks so obvious.
Well, because I'm a man. I don't
No, but
have a
men-
makeup artist best friend. Sorry. I don't
everybody-
wear any makeup at all.
Listen, there are people at this network that do it.
Oh, I see the longest line for the makeup's the men, not the women here.
Thank you.
Because all the dudes are on. All of them are all
But when
caked.
they
I call them, they're all caked up.
When they dye their
Half
hair,
the people who were behind the scenes here got makeup before they came on. Like all the guys wear makeup here.
they look really good.
Yeah, I just be the ugly dude in the room. Well, and I'm good with that. I don't change none of it.
Don't.
I can't. It's a waste of time. It's like putting glitter on a bull. It's just a waste of time. It just
But
doesn't.
men can do that. Glitter on a bull.
No, because we're comfortable being ugly.
No.
Because we work with our
It's
hands.
not
Like I don't.
just- It's
I
not
don't.
just comfort.
It's just like it is what it is. Like someone says Shrek. If Shrek had better traps, I'd do it. I'd
It's
say
different for women.
it's different because y'all make it different.
Who makes it different?
You make it different. It's not from us.
We all do.
Ain't no man came home and be like, why aren't you in some damn lingerie? All we care about is the opportunity that's going
No,
down.
I'm
Women
ta-
do the lingerie and
I'm
makeup is for
talking-
other women.
Stop.
Makeup,
I'm talking
hair, all
about-
that shit is women,
okay.
not men.
I'm being on TV.
The
I'm being a
extensions, that's
public-facing-
not for us.
Okay, I don't have that. A public-facing job on TV. Like, if we're not wearing the right clothes for you or the makeup,
Have you seen TV lately? You think Rachel Maddow gets sweated for not wearing
she
stuff?
doesn't count.
Okay, well, I'm just saying,
Category of one on her own. Take it. No. It's different. You know it. Okay. Last
you
thing.
win. That's good.
The baby mamas you talked about earlier. What? No
baby
makeup?
women, please. Baby women, no mothers.
Beautiful mothers, women. No makeup. No nothing. Nothing.
For me, yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
When you met them.
One I met, it was dark in a club.
Here we go.
I'm just being honest. And I definitely know she was wearing a wig because I was confused when I saw her a few weeks later, and I was like, where's your blonde hair? And the sister didn't have. I was like, oh, shit, I've been tricked. But it happens, But no, I've never been a big, going out to dinner. I don't like to wait. So, don't wear all that crap.
This went really south.
It did. Well, the good thing is I'm going to edit this so I win the argument.
No, you're not. You leave it all in.
Sure. Yeah. So congrats, you won the argument. Thanks for coming on. This was fun for me.
Thank you, Tyrus. Thank you for having me and for almost making me cry. Damn you.
Yeah. I need to let it go. I'm trying. You guys see how hard I'm trying to let this go? Because I have facts. I have facts to support. You know what? In my next interview, I'm going to get support. I'm going to get support because Willie Ray's here. He's a man's man. He's going to support me, and I'm going to be fine. You
don't need any assistance.
I'm going to be okay because I'm taking an L on my own show here. I'm just going to take it because I have to let you win the argument.
You don't have to let me. I just did.